Welcome to Central Valley Writers Workshop. Our Great Valley is home to many writers, all of whom enjoy learning tools, techniques, and tips to enhance their writing abilities. And we hope that you'll gain all of these and more as we interview authors and experts on this show. I'm your host, Claudia Newcorn, author of the award-winning fantasy fiction series, The Chrysalis Chronicles of Fairy, editor of Stanislaus Magazine, and Modesto Bee community columnist. Today we're going to explore one author's viewpoint on what challenges are involved in writing for children. Joining me as our guest today is Jennie Chadwick, author of the children's series The Peachtree Kids, Jaws of Dragons. Jennie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Please. Jennie, would you be kind enough to share with our audience a bit about your background and what led you into writing?
I'm from Modesto. I grew up in Modesto in a small neighborhood that was surrounded by peaches and vineyards, and we were close by Dry Creek. And it was all the adventures we had with my neighborhood kids, and all the friends were around there. We used to play down there and do all these things. So it's kind of like what led to my writing was my memories of my childhood was so much fun that's what kind of how I started writing.
Basically the rootstock for all that
Yes.
you're working on. Now, could you tell us a bit about Jaws of Dragons and what inspired you to come up with the story?
Jaws of Dragons is a game that the kids play in the neighborhood. Right before harvest, the farmers bring in these giant bins and they stack them side by side like this in order. And the kids like to play a game they call the Jaws of Dragons. They get the bins to rockin'. They push them and they get them to rockin', and then they run through them and they play hide and seek and they run all around. And the favorite time is to come back at nighttime and play with flashlights and run through these giant bins and see what kind of adventures they can find.
Now, you call it the Peachtree Kids. Where did the idea for the umbrella name for the series come from?
Probably just because of my childhood growing up around peach trees.
Okay. And I understand you say you have another book coming out. Could you share, when is that going to be released, and could you tell us a little bit about that?
The next book in the series is called Circus Fleas. I'm hoping February or March it'll come out.
That soon, okay, and I'm sure you'll be doing a lot of book signings and announcements on that. In my opinion and experience, writing for children is probably one of the most difficult audiences to write for because they're not interested in all the fancy florid description that characterizes, say, writing for adults. Why did you choose to write for kids?
I think writing for kids to me is really special because they still have an imagination. They still believe in make-believe. They still are up for adventures, and they're always willing to take chances to go play.
Can you give me an example of when you're writing for a child, how in your head you organize the sentence or the words you're going to use so that you know it will connect with a child?
Well, I guess I'm just lucky there because my mind, I seem to think like a 10-year-old sometimes when I'm writing. I can really get into the character and see how they're playing, where it's going to lead to.
Jennie, you're writing for an audience who is, you've said, from age 6 to 10. And writing for children is very, very different from writing for adults. I think it would be really interesting for us to hear an example of your writing if you'd be kind enough to read a passage from the book for us.
Okay. The bins look even bigger at night. Boy, the shadows are really scary. Ripley lets out a blood-curdling scream. Livy falls down and covers her head. Bug yells, "Ah!" and runs backwards, almost falling down. Ned starts jumping around like a wild man. Trey and Travis take off running. Rip is laughing so hard she didn't notice it had really gotten quiet. She wipes the tears from her eyes and wipes her nose on the back of her hand. She looks at her friends and thinks, "Oh, I'm dead, eek! They're mad!" Ripley laughs and runs off.
Excellent. I notice you're using shorter sentences. You use very simple words. In your experience in writing for children, as you said, you just know how to get back into being 10 years old. How do you go about choosing the language? I mean, do you hang out around children? Do you have younger kids in the family so that you're talking, you pick up their language, and then you're talking in the language that the kids who are reading the book are going to go say, "Oh, I understand, I can connect with this." How do you go about doing that?
Whenever I go anywhere, I always try to listen to little kids talk. I especially like to listen at the malls or at fairs and just pay attention to how they act and what they're saying and what they're interested in so I can use it in my book. And then I have friends that have young grandchildren. And I'll ask them, you know, what would your grandson say if this was happening, or what kind of things would he want to do in this situation? So.
Now, you were mentioning Ripley and Bug. Can you tell us a bit about the characters you created for the book and how you developed them?
The characters in the book, there's 6 kids. There's 4 boys and 2 girls. And Ripley she's the adventurous one. She's the big leader. She's about 10. And then there's Livy, her best friend, and she's 10, and she's got beautiful red hair and a long braid, and she's the brainy one, and she tries to keep the kids out of trouble. She's the conscious. And then you have the twins, Trey and Travis, and they're also 10, and they're real athletic and musical, and they're just a lot of fun to be around, and they're always up for an adventure. And then the next brother, these are the King brothers, and the next brother's name is Ned, and he's the artist, and he's a fantastic artist, and he likes to draw wanted posters and put them up all over the neighborhood. So all the kids are always finding wanted posters around the neighborhood. And then the youngest one, his name's Bug, but Bug's real name is Sylvester, but he doesn't like it. He goes by Bug, and Bug is the one that gets into all the adventures most of the time.
Well, listening to these children are really well developed as characters. What was the source of your inspiration in creating each of these individuals? Because you know them, I can hear it in your voice. They're not just two-dimensional, they're very three-dimensional. What inspired you?
A lot of the characters are friends from my childhood. Kids that I knew when I was a kid, and some, like the little blonde, sometimes reminds me of myself. Not a lot, but a little bit. And it's just childhood friends I had, that the adventures we had is what I use.
Now, again, listening to you, you've got a real exciting scene going on there. As you're writing a story, and now that you've written a second book, which you, from what you told me earlier, is actually about 3 times the length of The Jaws of Dragons as far as word count, what do you think are important elements that have to be in a story written for children, that you know that if they're missing, the kids probably aren't going to be that interested?
For writing for children, it has to be silly. It has to be fun. It needs to be something that maybe they can relate to and do themselves. Like my books are all outside. They're all playing down by the creek or playing out in the orchards or just playing outside, you know, and it's using your imagination. I like to have it so that in my books there's a lot of imagination that they use. I mean, they pretend a lot, but it just keeps them going.
So now, when children feedback, because you've done book signings, as you say, you speak at schools and all, what is the feedback you've gotten from kids on your books? How do they react to it in their own words?
I get a lot that the girls are real impressed. The little girls are saying, I like it because Ripley is one of the stronger ones. She's one of the leaders. And little boys come up and they'll say, I've done that before. I know how to do that. And I live by a peach tree, you know. And
now, as you've gotten the feedback, how are you incorporating that into your second book? Because you were mentioning that the first book is about 4,000 words, I believe, and your second one is right now working out to be about 12,000. That's a real increase. What has been changes in your experience in writing? You know, first time you go out there, you write your first book. Now you've written your second book, so you've started a series. How are things different for you as an author in that case?
My characters have evolved more. I've got more background on them. They're becoming more real to me to write about, so it's easier and it's funner, and I think about them doing stuff all the time. I mean, in the middle of dinner or at night, I think, oh man, I know what he could be doing, and I've just expanded on their lives.
Have you brought in new characters into the next book?
Yes.
And is this going? Can you give us some hints about what the next adventure is going to be?
The next adventure on Circus Fleas is about the kids have a project at school. They're having a giant talent contest at their school, and it's a circus theme. So all the kids are doing a circus theme to be in this performance at school. And it's the new character in there is a bloodhound named Cooper, and Cooper is Bug's dog, and he'll be the one that he just adds a lot of the silliness because, you know, bloodhounds are just funny dogs anyway. But the Circus Fleas is what the kids, how they get there to the school that day and what their projects were, and then a little bit about how they made their projects.
It sounds like it's going to be really exciting.
It's
I mean,
funny.
I'm looking forward to reading that. It's interesting listening to. I'm getting a much greater appreciation for what's involved in writing for children. Now, if you were standing up in front of a class of aspiring writers of all ages, teaching them about how to write for kids, what are some of the advice that you would give them based on your own experience that they should consider if they're going to try to write a story for children?
Never give up. Be persistent. It's children's books. Writing is really competitive. It's really tough. It's really hard to get your foot in the door. It took 2 years to get my first book published.
Really?
Because of all the, it's just difficult if you don't have an agent or, just doing it yourself. But I had mine professionally edited twice, and that puts you on another level in some of the publishing houses. And therefore I got lucky and got a publisher.
Really? Oh, congratulations to you on that. Now, did your publisher do your artwork? Because the book cover is lovely and it's very engaging. Were you involved in the cover design or anything at all?
My publisher did the artwork for the front of the book, and they gave me several examples that I could choose from. Now, the second book, I have an illustrator myself for the second one.
Really?
Now I'll be using more illustrations, yeah.
How many pages is book 2 going to be, by the way?
Right now, I think it's 110.
And Jaws of the Dragon is?
54.
Whoa, okay, yeah, you're doubling in size by the time
Yeah.
you're done. You mentioned professionally edited, and I think that's a very important point. How, in your experience, is professional editing different from just doing it yourself?
It's when you're professionally edited, you put your work out there, it seems like you get more hits on these publishing houses because they want, it's just like you go to another level. In other words, first thing they say is, we need to have it professionally edited. We can't accept it until it's been edited. So if you have it done before you start putting it out there, that really helps. That's what I learned from different houses would say, why don't you get this professionally edited first, then resubmit it to us.
Really?
And they would give
Okay.
you, and they gave me a list of different places to go and look online to find different places that edited professionally, and that's what I did.
Now, obviously, there's a lot of people out there offering services to aspiring authors. Some of them can be very pricey, from what I've seen in my experience. Any advice or cautions you would like to share with people that if they're looking for a professional editor or they're talking to maybe prospective agents, things they need to be careful about so they don't get led astray, if you will, in the whole process?
What I did was I went online and then I got different names and then I went on background search, and then there's a website, I think it's called Predators and
Editors?
Yes.
Yes.
And I went on that website and I looked up the names of so that I could correlate and see who had what and what kind of good marks they got, or so I was, because I was so unsure at first, who to go for.
Well, you're right. I've used Predators and Editors. I believe it's overseen by the Sci-Fi Society, and it was eye-opening how many so-called publishing houses where they would charge you 3 arms and 4 legs and didn't have a good reputation out there. You're with a professional house. Have you found that's been helpful in getting distribution for your book out there?
Yes. It put me on Amazon.com, it put me on Barnes & Nobles, it put me on Booker's, and it's just, you can find me where before I don't, it wouldn't.
You're just hidden somewhere.
Yeah, I was like, you wouldn't be able to find me without it, so.
And we'll be back after a few words from our sponsors.
I'm big, I'm big, I'm big. I've done big things. Some even say I'm bigger than life. But you know what? There's nothing bigger than life. Not when someone you love is fighting to live. You want to do something big? You want to do something big? Sign up to donate marrow and save a life. Take the first step at bethematch.org. See how big you can be. You could be the one to save a life. Be the hero.
Be the game breaker.
Be the turning of the tide.
Be the guiding light.
Be the difference.
Be the difference.
Be the difference maker.
Be the one.
Be the one to save a life.
Patients with life-threatening diseases of every age and race
Are searching for a marrow match.
Join the Be the Match Marrow Registry.
You can be the one.
Be the one.
Be the one. to save a life.
And we're back with our guest today, Jennie Chadwick, author of The Peachtree Kids, Jaws of Dragons. In your day life, what is your other job that you do beside being an author? You'd mentioned you judge at fairs and all. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Has that influenced your writing at all?
Yes, my husband and I judge fairs all over California, and that's where I see a lot of small children and young children and interact with them a lot when we're judging fairs.
How did you get to be a fair judge? I mean, it's not exactly what you call a mainstream profession.
Well, you know, growing up around this area, and my family was a lot from Turlock, so we'd go a lot to the fairs in Turlock. And as I grew up, I thought, you know what, I could do that. So I took a class through UC Davis and got judging certified. And then when I judge a lot of artwork and children's home crafts, all kinds of 4-H and FFA. So I'm around a lot of children, a lot. And that's what's really fun.
You live with kids, basically. I think
like
you're a kid masquerading as an adult from what I can see going on there.
Yeah.
When you were working on Circus Fleas, is there anything you found that was very different in the writing process for yourself as an author? Because now you've done it once before, you're having to expand on the story. I mean, how do you write? Do you have a specific time? I mean, how is the process of writing for you go? Do you just grab a pad and start scribbling, or do you have a certain time of the day you curl up and you are author Jennie Chadwick?
Well, I wish. I need about a 3 or 4 hour window to stay in the story, because if you get distracted, then it takes so long to get back into that. Even if it's just a small part in the book, I need to stay focused. And usually I like to write early in the mornings after I get my stuff around the house done. I don't work outside the house, so I try to get all my chores done and all the animals fed, and then I go in my office and I just stay in there like 3 or 4 hours.
Wow.
But sometimes if I'm really having fun, next thing you know, my husband's home. Where's dinner? Oh, I forgot.
You're kidding. You'll write for that long at a stretch?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
First draft. This is, I was speaking to a group of writers about 2 weeks ago, and they were coming up to me and saying, well, I have my book has been drafted, and I've edited it. And I said, edited what? And they go, well, my first draft, so I'm ready now. And we got to talking about first drafts. If you take your first draft that you've written versus your finished version, how much do you write and how much do you lose in the process of going through the editing?
That's a big one, because I probably go through six raw cuts before it goes into the galleys.
Really?
It just, it seems like every time I reread it, I rework it, and then I'll tweak it a little bit here, or I'll change something here. But once you send it off to the publisher, then you only get 2 rewrites. I mean, you only get to have 2 rewrites, and then after your second rewrite, you only get 1 correction for spelling or punctuation.
Really?
And then that's a deadline. There's a lot of deadlines I learned in this book about deadlines. That's why this one didn't get any illustrations, because I didn't realize some of the deadlines were serious.
They meant what they said.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Well, now you were talking about galleys and rewrites. Do you rewrite your book several times before you actually consider getting close to finished? Or do you primarily write it and then start editing it and reworking it?
First of all, I make like a storyboard. This is what I have kind of do. And I kind of get it where I know they want to go, where I want them to be, where I want the story to end up, so that I kind of have some ideas, because I have 2 other scripts going at the same time, because I'll think of something, I think, well, that'll work better over here, because, the third one's supposed to be Cooper's Caper. We don't know yet. And then there's Carnival Cooties over here somewhere, but we're still working on some of the other books. But it's just, trying to, it just takes time to get them all in there. I lost my train of thought.
But that's wonderful. You're talking about storyboarding. I mean, so you've got a map up that you're looking at, going, no, let's pick up this piece and move it there.
Right.
That is a really great way of doing that. I've not heard that before. Where did you get the idea?
When I did a lot of research when I was first starting to write, and I wanted to be able to do it right, because it seemed like I would get going and then I'd get off on, you're on a main road here writing, and then all of a sudden you think, oh, well, Bud can do this, and then I shoot over here, and then I forgot how to get back over there. I didn't know how to get it back in gracefully, you know, or a flashback. I mean, you're like, well, that happened yesterday. Well, you know, how do I get that back over here? So if I put up on my storyboards, and I have like 12 sheets, and I'll have things, and I'll say, you know, they start out here, and this is the goal I want. So how do I get them there? It really keeps me focused, and then I can actually go in and work on just maybe 7 and 8 of the book, and then and then I don't lose my place anymore.
I think it's a fabulous idea. I mean, you've effectively done a visual plot. Sometimes you'll go to writers' classes and they'll talk about map out your plot, but you've taken it to a whole new level, which I think is really clever. I mean, do you actually cut or pick up pieces and move them around as you were saying, okay, this, for example, you mentioned, you alluded to more books, and so you've got an idea that may develop here, but you think it's better for maybe book number 3 or 4. How do you keep track of all those pieces? Do you have a spare board to stick them on so you don't lose the ideas?
Actually, I do. I do, and it's just, but I don't really work on them. I just put the ideas up there. You know, I'll just write up there, this, you know, this would work better here, you know, this tree scene would work better in this one than this one, yeah.
I think it's clever. Compliments to the author. I make generous bows in your direction.
Thanks.
One of the things I often hear authors talk about is writer's block. Have you ever had to deal with that? And if so, how do you overcome it?
No.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, it seems like I have ideas all the time. I wake up in the middle of the night and I'll run down to write something that I think will work better in a scene and with one of the kids, or something that sounds better than the way I had wrote it, because it just bothered me the way I wrote it down, you know. And it's because I want kids' books to be intelligent. I want it to come across like it's fun to read, and it's total silliness, and it's a lot of make-believe, but at the same time it's intelligent. You know, because kids are smart. They really are. And I just love them. They're smart and they're fun, and nothing makes me happier than when they laugh.
Well, and obviously just listening to the passage you read, I found myself going, okay, I can remember pulling stunts like that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Do you ever get parents giving you feedback on the book and how they react to it? I'm sure they read it to their kids.
I have. I've gotten several nice little notes in the mail and some emails from different people that have read my first book, and they said how fun it was that the kids were outside playing in the dirt, running around. They interacted with each other. They were such good friends, and just having a good time together.
They liked the underlying message you were sending them about friendship and
Right.
everything else. Because if you think about it, the kids absorb what you're writing, good, bad, or indifferent, and then they take that away, and who knows how they incorporate it into their own lives. As you've been working on these books, have there been any obstacles or challenges you've had to overcome in order to make them happen?
More confidence in myself. More, you know, believing in myself that it can happen. It can, you know, the book someday maybe be a movie. You know,
Hey, it's possible.
I know.
SpongeBob.
I know it is. Anything's possible. Just believing in myself and just keep at it.
How do you build that confidence? Because I've heard others mention that there's no one making you do this. You're in charge of making this happen. How do you maintain the momentum or the impetus to keep it going?
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's just fun. I enjoy it so much, and it's fun, and it makes me laugh out loud when I'm writing. It's just really a fun time. I really enjoy it, and I know at the end product somebody else is going to laugh.
Well, you're giving a smile. I mean, admittedly, some of the books out there today kind of end very dark and very gloomy. And in fact, I had a couple moms talking to me at a recent book signing, and they're actively looking for books that make their children smile and feel good. And it sounds like you've really accomplished that. Again, if you were to give advice or suggestions to aspiring writers, because we like to have people who are watching the show come away with really great nuggets and ideas, are there any other pointers or suggestions or concepts you'd like to share with them?
Yeah, let's see. One of my biggest ones was, like I said, confidence in yourself. Don't let somebody else that's read your book say, I was okay. Or, you know, don't you feel dumb writing for kids? You know, no, be yourself. Be true to yourself, and if you like doing this, you can accomplish anything. You just keep doing it.
Discipline in a way, really, because as you said, you write every day, but believing in yourself. I mean, that reminds me, you mentioned you sent it off, you got feedback. How did you handle rejection? That's a big one as an author.
Yeah, at first it hurt. You know, you thought, oh, I knew I shouldn't have sent it. It wasn't good enough, and I should have done something different. And then my husband, who's one of my best pals and really good supporter. He said, if you like it, then it's going to be true. You just go with what you like and what you can do, and that's the best you can be. So.
Well, clearly you've got a success. I mean, you have something a lot of authors want, which is a publisher who's helping promote and support and get it out there. Have you done book signings outside of California yet, or you been? Will you start traveling? Then you're going to really have stories to tell and get out
I'm
there.
looking forward to that.
I think you're really going to enjoy it. Any timeline for books 3 and 4 when you're hoping they might come out?
I'm hoping within, I don't know if they'll be in this year or not, probably next year.
Okay.
It seems like they're about 6 months apart is how they work. It takes about 3 months to get a book into the publisher and out.
Really?
Once it gets there, yeah. It's a 3-month process getting it into the publisher and then getting it out, and then once I get it out at 3 months, then we start that marketing.
Well, I'm totally impressed you're turning around a manuscript within 3 months. I've been working on my last one for over 2 years, and that's about all I'm going to say about that right now. I have a third one coming out, and I'm just listening to is inspiring to me as an author, because I completely understand the challenges you're facing, and some days you just sit there and go, why did I do this to myself?
I know, that's true.
Okay, and is there anything else you'd like to share with our readers and listeners and viewers before we wrap up our interview today?
Well, no, I just really like writing. I really have a fun time. If you really want to write children's books, then you should. You should. And the topic doesn't really matter so much as just starting up, and the more you write, the better it comes to you. And the more comfortable you are. Like, my characters have gotten so much bigger and so much more colorful, and they have more personality, and it's just, each book will be more and more, I hope, for the kids to look forward to, that each time there'll be a new adventure.
Well, from the sounds of it, it's going to be an ongoing story. After all, you can grow up with the Peachtree Kids to become the Peachtree Kid teens.
I know. Hopefully there'll be 12, but we'll see.
Oh, Harry Potter Part 8.
I wish.
Our thanks today to Jennie Chadwick, author of the Peachtree Kids series, and today's guests. It's been our pleasure to learn and gain insight from her experiences as a children's author writing this engaging series. Jennie, for all of our guests, we like to invite them to pull the pineapple. In other words, move the pineapple there and add your book to our collection as we have authors on our series. So please go right ahead and add Peachtree Kids Jaws of Dragons.
Okay, thank you.
Fit it right in there.
Okay, there it is.
And we invite our viewers to learn more about Jennie Chadwick by visiting kazvtv.net, where we have our authors posted on the website. Thanks so much for joining us, and we hope to see our viewers again at our next Central Valley Writers Workshop.
Thank you.